Hi and welcome, and I'm so thrilled that my guest is Laura Willoughby from Club Soda, co-founder of Club Soda. Laura, thanks ever so much for being on the podcast. And you're someone that has made such a massive difference to me. So I would like to thank you, along with I'm sure millions of other people, for starting Club Soda. I mean, it's a big deal. So for anyone who may not know what Club Soda is, tell us first of all what it is, and then we'll get into a little bit of your story.
Yeah, well, Club Soda launched in January 2015, and I call it a mindful drinking movement, as it's sort of grown into this beast with many things that it does, but mostly it's there to support people to change their drinking habits, to do a self-guided journey, and to do that with the support of other people. And then we also do work on improving what pubs, bars and restaurants serve, and also introducing people to the new wave of alcohol-free drinks that are out there. And believe it or not, all of those things fit together really neatly in sort of my vision of creating a world where nobody feels out of place if they're not drinking, which is our overall aim. Because whether that's, the skills that you need yourself to go out into what is a very alcohol-centric world, or whether it's about getting venues to treat all of their customers equally, it's part of the same thing. And I want everyone to feel comfortable, whether they're cutting down or whether they've always been alcohol free.
Yeah, because it's important to stress that your thing is very much, it's whatever works for you. You're not setting any parameters as to how anyone should do this. And you've got several Facebook communities. So you've got a community for people who are maybe just starting out and perhaps mindful drinking. We'll talk more about that in a while. And then alcohol-free group for people who have made that decision. I think you've got a group for younger people. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And the sense I get is that you're providing this space for people to contribute and get support, which way it is. You don't put any rules on that. I think that's really important to stress.
Yeah, and that's really important to me, because I don't believe it's my job to tell anyone what to do with their lives. But also because, I'm not sure about you, Janey, but I had probably for my New Year's resolution for nearly the whole of my adult life has been to drink less.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I find that final time that's finally stuck. And I had lots of goals to moderate along the way. And I think if I'd gone somewhere that told me it was alcohol free or nothing, I would have turned away. And I want to be there for people whatever stage in the journey that they are. And believe it or not, nearly all of the techniques you need for moderation are virtually the same for alcohol free. So I don't see there as being this hard line between moderation and alcohol-free. I see it changing your drinking as a non-linear journey, and one where you will continue to learn whatever stage you're at and whatever your goal is.
Yeah, very much about supporting the individual. So tell us a little bit about your story then. What got you into all of this?
Well, I've got a background in politics and campaigning. I've been a community campaigner since I was about 14. And I was elected to local government when I was only 23. But I come from a good line of hardy drinkers in my family. So drinking was very normalised. And I'm 44, so I was also able to drink underage in pubs very easily when I was younger. So I come from a small market town where drinking was the only thing to do, particularly cider, because West Country, you know what I mean? And a very normalised set of drink being the thing that you did. And my dad actually died of alcoholism or being dependent on alcohol, whatever way you want to put it, when I was just 30 and he was 56.
Wow.
So he died quite young. And really, I was, from that day onwards, I was very frightened, because I've inherited two things from my father: his ability to drink loads and his boobs. So I knew that I was my father's daughter, and that if I wasn't careful, I would end up like him. And so I did immediately what normally happens in this situation when you know you need to change something. I recognised I needed to change something, and then I drank more.
Yeah.
that fear, like maybe like every drink, the next drink was going to be my last, and so I may as well get the most out of it. And that often happens when people decide on a quit date or know that they need to give up. Their drinking actually goes up. The other reason why my drinking went up is I ended up in a job that I really wasn't enjoying, and actually made me very depressed. And I think to compensate for that, I relied on the thing that I knew best, which was drinking as well. So I realized, there came a point where I realized I had to either move job or change my drinking. If I hadn't changed my drinking, maybe moving job would work first. And so I went through a process of questioning my drinking and working out what to do next.
Yeah. And what do you think it was that was different that time, you know, if you tried before? I mean, and also, you know, amongst your members, what do you usually find is the thing that makes this the day one, the new day one, as it were? Because, you know, we hear all the time, don't we, about people who, as you say, decide they want to stop, but then the next day they end up drinking more. Or maybe they do manage to quit for a week or a few days and then they're back again. What's that one thing that makes the difference, do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't think it works the same for everybody. So some people will need to go through multiple day ones and keep persevering. I also feel that we don't understand our own, we don't know enough when we start. So unless we begin to build our knowledge base of what it is that it takes to give up drinking, we're not necessarily fully equipped. And I do believe, a bit like a diet or anything else, you need to fully immerse yourself in the subject in order to learn as much as possible. And we all like to think that we're different from everyone else, but the truth is we're all very similar. But human behavior is very common, and particularly around alcohol, because it's a substance that, you know, is mind altering and has probably had a cumulative impact over time. Actually, those people that have been before us do know, and they are right. And we do need to open ourselves up to accepting that they're right and that we need to learn. And that those behaviour change techniques do work. And I sound a bit sanctimonious about that, but actually I'm the person who would always flick through the self-help book and always skip over the exercises and go, oh yeah, I understand what that exercise is about, I don't need to do it. But now I've started using those exercises for other changes in my life already, and really accept that those things are really important. And the reason why I talk about that is there's probably two key things. First of all, you need to plan to change your drinking. And I feel like I'm a really boring person telling people to plan, but actually it does work. And the second is you need to understand some of your personal underlying strengths that get you there.
Yeah. And
so I would tell you my story, which is that I accidentally put in place some of the good behavior change techniques that you need for changing your drinking. And it was my personality, my innate strengths that got me through. So I had got very bored of myself being drunk. I had really got to a point where I'd actually begun to scare myself. I'd known for a long time that I need to change my drinking, but something had switched. And so I booked a workshop for a day. And I set that day for 2 weeks in advance. And I did something very important. It was 2 weeks before my birthday. And I just thought, you know what, there's never a good time. It doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks to my birthday. This seems to be the right date. I've got a date. And then I immediately went out and told my closest friends. So 2 behavior change techniques there in one go. Telling friends, really important for accountability, and setting a date. I also spent some money on that workshop, and there's nothing that focuses your mind more than spending a little bit of cash. Doesn't matter how much, but a little bit of skin in the game really helps. And then bizarrely, on the day that I gave up drinking, I also met someone who was also a big drinker, who'd also booked on that same course as me. And we started a relationship. And by being in a new relationship with someone who decided they would give up with me, but being in a new relationship also changes your environment. It gives you something exciting to think about. And so I had a really obvious distraction really early on.
Yeah.
So that's some behavior change techniques that I accidentally put in place. But then my personal strengths are the thing that made it stick, because the workshop was so bad. I was so angry about it.
Oh dear.
That it made me determined that I wasn't going to drink. And actually that's where the idea from Club Soda came on that day.
Right.
So my pig-headedness, my campaigniness, my sense of injustice kicked in. Yeah. And it created something a bit bigger and a bit bigger than myself. And when I feel that there's something that's bigger than myself, that I've got a cause, that keeps me very motivated.
I know you talk about WOOP, WOOP. Explain what that is.
I like it as a behaviour change technique because one thing that hasn't improved with changing my drinking is my memory. And so I only really like behaviour change techniques that I can remember really well. And Whoop is actually developed by a behaviour change scientist and has been used in all sorts of different contexts. So at the minute, this technique is working for me in terms of exercise and diet as well. But Whoop stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. And I often find what's really important is most of us know we want to change our drinking, but we're not very focused on why. What is it that we hope to get out of it? We often feel that we should change our drinking because we should and not because we want to. And so I really want people to not just focus on the I'm going to give up drinking or I'm going to cut down on drinking, but to focus on the why. Why is it you're doing it? What will you achieve? Is it that you want to be more present for your children? Is it that you want to be more productive at work? Is it because you want your overall health to be better? Is it because you want to stop scaring yourself with the amount that you're drinking? That there are reasons why you do it. And it's funny, I did this exercise in a workshop and in yesterday where she's still only focused on the wish. Oh, I just want to not drink for this month. And I said, yeah, but you still haven't told me why, what your outcome is. And she said, well, I'm hoping that, my sleep's really terrible and I'm hoping maybe this may help. And I went, wow, that's the most amazing outcome that you could go for, to see if changing your drinking will improve your sleep.
Yeah.
And so actually that's a really strong imperative to change your drinking. It's not just the act of changing drinking, it's what you will get out of it. So those are really important things to think about. And then think about your obstacle and your plan. So what are the obstacles that can come up? And we're often very good at thinking about the external obstacles. Oh, well, there's Friday work drinks, and Derek from accounts always tries to get me to drink, and my husband drinks and he might put me under pressure, some of those things. But we often forget about the fact that often our triggers are our internal voice in our head.
What's going on in the head?
Go on, have a
the
drink.
Wine witch is sometimes
it's been a hard day. Or it might be that you've had a stressful day and your automatic connection is to have a drink, or you may be used to opening a bottle of wine at 6 o'clock every day. So don't underestimate those internal triggers. Make a massive list of internal and external possible obstacles, and then begin to think about how you'll deal with them. So if you always have a glass of wine at 6 o'clock every day, what could you replace it with? Do you want to change when you cook your dinner? Do you want to have an alternative drink? Do you want to have some sweets in the cupboard or something to snack on while you cook? Because we often drink when we're hungry, and if you're cooking, it's clear that you're hungry. And begin to really put those things into place.
Yeah.
And I also like Whoop because you can use it for just today. So if you had a party today, you could go, right, what's my wish for today? Right, I'm not going to drink at this party. If I do that, I will feel like I've got a superpower. Woo! And what are my obstacles, and what's my plan for that? Am I going to leave early? Am I going to take my own drink, and so on? So it's a tool that I really like to use.
Absolutely. And I think the great thing about what you've created with Club Soda is that people can come on board. I mean, you mentioned obstacles. Often, those around you can be an obstacle. There's no doubt. Your relationships, the people you meet, what other people say about you not drinking. We know that alcohol's the one drug you have to justify not being part of, isn't it? So because there are so often these issues around other people, I think many people, certainly in the beginning, come to Club Soda perhaps sort of semi-anonymously, and there is this very supportive group where even if you just lurk on the outside, you can read all these messages, and actually you can learn so much from seeing what other people have done. Sometimes it's hugely positive, and sometimes it's really actually quite depressing, but everyone's there for each other. So I think that you must feel really proud that you've managed to create that, because by reading what's happened to other people, as you say, we're not all that different anyway, and it can really make people think, wow, okay, I'm going to be really careful next time I'm at a work do or whatever it is.
Yeah, and you realise that you're not alone, and you can learn from other people's experience. And what's amazing about the community now is, because it's been going for nearly 4 years, is that not only can you learn vicariously through the other people there, which another key behaviour change technique, but you can also see people who are further along in the journey from you. So there's a woman called Janet in the community who, when she first joined, only wanted to moderate. She had no wish to give up altogether. And over time, she began to feel very jealous of everyone else who had got to, 1 year, 2 year, and for whom life was getting better. The sky wasn't falling in. They were socializing and other things were falling into place. And so she vowed on that day, when she began to realize that she wanted that too, to give up drinking. And she's now hit over 2 years. So it's really interesting, because sometimes we need reassurance that you're not going to be on the outside, continue to be on the outside looking in, because alcohol is so much part of our social life. You can feel that. And at the beginning, you may need to avoid social occasions, but you have to know that you won't have to do that forever. You might need to make some short-term changes, but it doesn't have to be forever.
And on that note, the Club Soda is not just online. You do, you and various members offer social meetups in different towns across the UK, which are just fantastic for people to realise that, people of all different ages and from all different backgrounds come together and got this shared thing in common. And actually, you have quite a laugh, don't you? It's not boring at all.
No, not at all. We talk about everything, and then we laugh about some of our old drinking stories and all of that sort of stuff. They're never quiet. We always ruminate about the fact that how loud this would be if we were all still drinking. And the most important thing about it, though, is once you meet people face to face, for me, that's like the superfood of changing your drinking, is meeting other people face to face, because it improves your accountability no end. You begin to put profile pictures together with the real people behind them, and you get a real sense of belonging. And we all need to belong to a tribe somewhere that helps us do the things we want to do. And that's what I wanted to create with Club Soda, that feeling of belonging to something that can support you along the way.
And you also run courses, and of course the Mindful Drinking Festival. Now, for anyone who hasn't come across the term, how do you describe mindful drinking? And tell us about the festivals that you run, because they're unique and absolutely growing.
Yeah, and it's funny that you can, there's not really the word mindful came because that you really don't have a word to talk. You can talk about dieting, and it could mean that you're aiming for 1 stone off or 10 stone off.
Yes.
Or you could be going sugar-free as part of your diet, or you could be going vegan. There's lots of words around changing your eating, no words about changing your drinking. And we've ended up with a vocabulary around changing drinking. It's all quite negative. You're going through recovery, or you are an alcoholic, all of which aren't words that actually have any particular meanings associated with them. I wanted to create some meaningful, a positive word where anyone's goal could fit in, or even if you've never drunk very much before, there's a word for what you're doing. And so that's where mindful drinking came from. And we did the festivals because we realized there's this new wave of alcohol-free drinks, and we are one of the things that's really funny for me is that people's behavior around alcohol-free drinks is very different. We will buy any old crap alcohol, basically. We pretend that we're very discerning and that we only buy good quality, and I'm sure we normally base it on the price and not on what we know about the bottle. But we'll buy something we're not sure if we know whether we like or not, if it's got alcohol in. But we won't even spend £1.50 on an alcohol-free drink unless we know we definitely like it. So I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to try alcohol-free drinks, and to talk to the people that make them, because nearly all of those people have got stories of their own about why they decided to create an alcohol-free drink, and really create an event where people could feel really positive about the changes they're making. And it works for them if they're a foodie, it works for them if they are pregnant, it works for them if they're vegan, it works for them if they are going alcohol free, or if they're just moderating.
Absolutely. And I mean, what's been incredible, even just in the sort of last year, is that I've noticed that the huge increase in producers who are bringing out alcohol free drinks. I mean, all the big guys, that the Heinekens and the Adnams Brewery and Budweiser, all of the big guys are in there, of course, with their alcohol free versions. And then you've got these amazing artisan brands, and we've got kombuchas now, and we've got ciders, and we've got so much more about it than I do, but the rise is massive. And I know this is what you try and showcase at the Mindful Drinking Festival. I mean, the one in London, some people will be hearing this after the event, but you've got an astonishing number of beers, for example, haven't you?
Yeah, there's about 13 beers, and there's 60, hang on a minute. There's about 60 or so drinks brands. About 13, 14 of those are beers, and we've got some of the best beer sommeliers across the country who are doing beer tours around the festival itself and doing talks about drinks. We've got some of the best cocktail makers in the country coming. So yeah, it's a real shift and a real change, and yeah, we're quite bowled over by the number of brands at this event.
Yeah, and I think, you know, also it's brilliant the work that you're doing, championing, as you said in the introduction, alcohol-free drinks in pubs and bars and at venues, because, you know, one of the things that happened to me, I'm sure to many people, was I was invited to a function not long after I'd stopped drinking, and you know, everyone, well, I think what was on offer was red wine, white wine, champagne, and for those not drinking, a really naff orange juice, which,
yeah,
you know, I wouldn't even give my kids. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I asked if they could make me an elderflower cordial or something like that, and of course the answer was yes, we can. That will be £13.50, please. Hold on, there's something not quite right here. And so I know this is what you're trying to change, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're launching our venue guide at the festival. So if you go to clubsodaguide.com, not only can you see a whole load of pubs that we've and venues that we've put up there that are really good for mindful drinkers, but we've also got a database of over 500 alcohol-free drinks on there. And then we're asking people to help us crowdsource the guide going forward, to tell us the best venues that you find. And don't worry, Janey, I have got my site set on corporate events and receptions and things like that, where the caterers all put on the really naff concentrated orange juice. For me, this is an issue around equality. It's not about those people who have got an unusual behavior of not drinking. We need to start seeing this as something very usual, very normal, and about catering for a diverse population. And again, that's, you know, people drink for all sorts of reasons, including the fact, or don't drink for all sorts of reasons.
They might be driving home, even
pregnant or driving, or any of those things.
So I mean, you're right, because, you know, they would, if you had a dietary issue, you know, if you were vegan or vegetarian, they would absolutely cater for you. They wouldn't just sort of give you any old tut, would they, really? Yeah.
So I don't get why you would give everyone else and serve them directly a glass of very expensive wine and spend less than 0.05p on a really bad orange juice and make me serve myself.
Yes.
So I'm not sure about you, Jane, but I always put it as an RSVP on events. And I actually make it clear, I want a really good alcohol-free drink, brackets, if you give me concentrated orange juice, I will tweet and embarrass you.
Yeah, good one. I know this is something that you're really pioneering, and it's, you know, it's fantastic work that you're doing there with changing the face of the drink suppliers and the bars and the clubs, you know, in the UK. So what would you hope then in a year's time? You've got the Mindful Drinking Festival in London. You've got some amazing people speaking there as well, Quitlit authors, all kinds of stuff going on. No doubt you're planning other mindful drinking festivals, hopefully. If I were to speak to you in a year's time, what would you hope, you know, would have changed? Is the picture going to be very different in a year, do you think?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that our guide will grow and that people will feel very energized about finding venues and speaking to venues and being more outspoken about it. You've always had to be quiet about changing your drinking because people fear the stigma. And I'm beginning to see that shift, and people going, no, we're customers and we want something better. And so we need to start being more demanding. And I'm hoping the guide will become a focus for that. And that by this time next year, so that we might even be able to get the big supermarkets on it and score them out of 5. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hoping that we'll have more festivals, and I'm also hoping that we might have a first version of a new coaching tool out to help people change their own drinking habits.
Fantastic.
But all of that is all dependent on money for us, and you know, we're still very small. We're smaller than people think we are.
Yeah, well, that's because you do amazing work. So back on you then, personally, Laura. one thing that I want to talk about a lot on this podcast is self-care, and how we can, you know, look at the positive benefits of choosing not to drink or to drink mindfully. But so many of us forget about looking after ourselves. You know, we're so good at running ourselves ragged and looking after everybody else, and we actually forget. So what would be your top self-care tip, you know, perhaps for someone starting out on this journey, or what works for you?
I think the thing that I realise that's most important is, if you fall off the wagon, or if you end up on day one again, we are absolutely full of guilt. And so what we end up doing are things on that day that we feel most disappointed with ourselves, that actually make it worse. We decide that we've been so bad we must clean the whole of the kitchen, or that we must do something as penance. And so I want to say to people, on days like that, treat yourself kindly, treat yourself well. You're doing something hard and it's difficult, but you haven't failed. You've got days, weeks, months of success behind you. And at least you've started on a journey which many people haven't even started on. So don't treat yourself badly. When you're feeling at your worst, you're most guilty, treat yourself kindly.
Yeah.
And do something that you like. And if that's a lovely hot bath, or a pampering treatment, or reading a book, or watching some trashy telly, whatever it is, treat yourself well and be kind to yourself, rather than being negative. And that will put you in the best frame of mind to move forward, and to learn from the experience that you've had, and to take it on from there.
Fantastic tip, Laura. Thank you so much. Just remind us then where people can find out more about Club Soda.
Yeah, if you go to joinclubsoda.co.uk, or find us on @joinclubsoda on Instagram.
Excellent. And I look forward to seeing you at the Mindful Drinking Festivals, and definitely talking to you. Well, at least we'll probably talk to you in the interim, but definitely in a year we'll schedule a date, and then we'll look at everything that's changed. Because I mean, I agree. I think that, you know, where everyone talks about Veganuary, don't they? I think it's not going to be long before dry January really does become a thing. You know, that so many more people are recognizing is massive. Yeah. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
I'll speak to you later.